Zaheer doesn't fight alone. He can summon his Red Lotus to do support attacks on a cooldown indicated by that Red Lotus icon. If any of them get hit by an enemy attack, the cooldown will be doubled, but fear not, as Zaheer can also hold his own with very good buttons and the ability to use free flight. In my opinion, he is very easy to pick up because his buttons just feel really good, but he is incredibly hard to master, thanks to the ability he has to flight cancel all of his basic jumping attacks. At a high level, he's one of the characters in this game that requires the most actions per second. He's gonna break some thumbs. But let's kick this guide off by giving you some tips in neutral. To close the gap, Zaheer can obviously use his free flight. Now this is very telegraphed. The opponent will see it coming, but depending on the height and how unpredictable you are, you can actually just use this to approach the opponent. You can also use his other flow options like the forward leap with forward flow, or if the opponent is more of a zoner, throwing a lot of projectiles, you can roll under them with down flow. None of these options are incredibly fast or move them too far forward on the screen, so if you are solo, you're mostly gonna have to play honest neutral with the admittedly very good buttons you have. That said, Zaheer does not fight solo. Quarter circle back B, both on the ground and in the air, are your best friends for full screen control. Pali comes out and shoots her I-beam at an angle in the air or horizontally on the ground. Now there are some problems with the ground version because they can just be crouched or low flowed. If your opponent knows this, then yeah, this tool does lose a lot of value because your approach just isn't completely safe, but it still limits your opponent's options. If you pick Pali as a support though, her beam will hit crouching opponents as well, so that's something to consider when choosing your support. Also, this is a bit situational, but if Pali gets hit by an opponent 3 times in a single round, your flight becomes free. It just doesn't cost any flow. The jumping quarter circle forward series is a flying hitbox. Because it's slow, it can be dangerous to use on its own, but it's still a great button to use in air-to-air fights. And if you're stuck in a corner being zoned at full screen, jumping quarter circle forward C into flight can help you close the gap on the stage's ceiling where a lot of characters just won't reach you. On the ground, other than his standing normals and jumping medium, I would say crouching C is an incredible low with very good reach. And you can follow this button up with another C input. Zaheer will do a little breakdancing move, and then of course you can use specials to finish the combo or continue the pressure. His quarter circle back EX is a great neutral tool as it summons one Red Lotus member for a big attack depending on who you picked as your support character. They all provide very good neutral value, and I'll show you exactly what they all do in the support section. But this is probably the best way you have to spend your energy as Zaheer if you're struggling in neutral. Finally, quarter circle forward EX has a very long range. It's a perfect button for big whiff punishes, and it only costs 1 energy. So if you see your opponent flailing, it might be worth throwing this one out just to keep them in check. Moving on to Oki and mix-ups. Zaheer has very decent left-right and high-low mix, starting with very easy cross-ups with down flow in the opponent's face. Now this is usually better if you pair it with some lockdown from your assists, as simply using down flow can be dangerous if the opponent likes mashing. Unfortunately, the cross-up does not work in the corner, so your options there are a little bit more limited. Forward flow into jumping heavy can lead into some very ambiguous cross-ups. Most times, I don't even know which side this is gonna hit. Jumping heavy is just that good of a button, especially if you use it directly above the opponent. You can also use forward flow for some empty jumps into crouching B or empty jumps into throws once your opponent starts blocking your overheads pretty consistently. A bit more advanced, but by canceling jumping attacks into jumping flow, you can land multiple overheads, making your opponent question when to crouch block. I'll give you an example. Try doing jumping C and then flow canceling into another one, flow canceling again into jumping medium as you're falling down. You just hit 3 very quick overheads, and trust me, you can do even more than that, or you can stop midway through to go for a low or a throw. It's also worth trying jumping B plus C, which is a special move built for cross-ups. After a forward flow, this generally works very good, and you get a critical hit once per match, granting you 2 energy and giving you a bigger ground bounce that goes into a full combo. Good neutral, very good mix. Let's talk about defense, where his options are a lot more limited. Basically, he can use forward and back flow to avoid low attacks, and he can use down flow to avoid high attacks. That's pretty much it. He doesn't have any armored options or invincible options. He has to know what the opponent is going to hit him with, and he has to respond accordingly by dodging lows or avoiding highs. That said, forward flow and down flow are great flow reversal options as they get out of the way of the opponent's pressure pretty quickly, and forward flow actually grants you 1 energy if you avoid a low attack once per match. That's another one of his critical hits. That said, because it doesn't have a lot of options there, he's mostly gonna have to hold the mix or use the universal mechanic flow reversal which is very expensive. Like every other character, Zaheer comes with 3 supports, and this time it's actually pretty obvious what they all do, because you're picking one member of the Red Lotus, and whoever you pick will have their support buffed, and you're also picking them as the support that comes out with your Quadricycle back EX. Minghua usually only hits twice, but if you pick her as your support, she's gonna hit 3 times with her normal assist, and the jumping version gives you a bigger ground bounce. Her EX attack shows up right above the opponent's head. I've been playing 2xKO, this reminds me a lot of Akali's super assist, but it's definitely not as powerful, as if you hit Zaheer, she immediately vanishes, and it's very easy to hit Minghua as well before she performs her attack. Pali is a fan favorite for those struggling in neutral, because her beams are bigger. No longer can you just crouch under them. And her EX is also pretty decent. It fires 3 beams in quick succession. They actually extend your combos pretty nicely if you manage to set it up, and of course they control a big portion of the screen. Gazan, on the other hand, is a character more suited for aerial control and bigger damage on your basic combos, because his attack now comes out faster. This is usually a lockdown type of assist. If the opponent respects you, you can keep them in lock stun for a long time and go for some crazy mix-up with the options that we already broke down, but because his assist comes out faster, it's actually possible to link it into combos. Plus, his EX shoots the Lava Shuriken in a star pattern in the air, and it lingers for longer than the other 2 assists, so once again, great for catching characters that love spending time in the air. With that said, let's talk about his combos and the high actions per second. First, if you're a beginner, I would recommend going very simple with just ABC, finish it with a Quadricycle forward, which has a follow-up. This is a very easy combo that you can confirm into super if you have 4 energy, or even ultimate if you have all 7 energy. Once we get to his BNB, things get a little trickier. Before you start practicing this whole combo, I would recommend doing back C into this jumping flow mediums. You can do this up to 3 times, you just have to keep holding up and to the right, but definitely get used to that muscle memory before you start going for this combo. In the end, I usually like finishing with Minghua's assist for more pressure on block, and if the opponent rolls away from the corner, I'm chilling, I'm flying, and I can chase them. Instead of just 2 jumping medium attacks, you can actually do 3 for bigger corner carry. This will nerf your damage a little bit, but this combo is very hard to extend in the mid screen if you do not reach the corner. But that's one of the reasons why I like using the Gazan support, because you can swap Minghua after you reach the ground with Gazan, and that gives you a much easier combo conversion. If you want to throw a super, the combo is very similar, but you're not going to fly again when you reach the end. You're just going to do that very basic beginner BNB combo, which once again, you can confirm into super or even ultimate. And if you want to spend your EX bar, a great way to do it is by using the kite, which you can flow cancel. So by hitting flow twice, you're going to return to the ground and pick up the combo again. This combo is pretty long, so you will have to omit all of your light attacks, otherwise the opponent can simply flow escape it. But those are some tips if you want to get into Zaheer. That said, this is one of the characters with the highest skill ceiling that I see in this game, so this really is just the starting point. For more Avatar Legends guides, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!